12 hand-selected lures.
The finesse jig, little turd, crankbait.
30 minutes.
It's a 6 cents trace. It's another topwater bait.
Fishing each lure
That's a big one.
to find out which can catch the biggest Indiana River Smallmouth.
Getting in that, bro.
I've categorized these baits into 3 categories. The starters, the go-tos for any river fishing adventure. The bench players, sometimes can play a role depending on the situation, or the sleepers, where I see high potential but have little to no experience. Now you're probably wondering how I got the idea to do this challenge or why we're doing it, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But for now, come with me. Over here.
First bait this morning will be a whopper plopper. So good luck to whoever has the whopper plopper. Think it's gonna put in 30 minutes, probably 4 to 5 fish. It's a coin flip if there are any good ones or not. Whopper plopper timer starting now.
This is gonna be a lot more fun for you if you pause the video, go down to the comments right now, and guess which bait you think's gonna take the win for the longest river smallmouth.
For those in my fantasy league that know nothing about fishing, the whopper plopper is a top water bait. It stirs up a lot of disturbance on the water. You can hear that plop, and it causes some of the most epic bites because it's all visual. The fish will come up out of the water and smoke it, and it is almost always start the morning with a whopper plopper on the river. Other than me yapping, it's one of my favorite things. Just pure quiet with nothing but that plopper on top of the water. Oh, something smoked it. It's really shallow here. There should be an explosion. We had a fish hook himself almost. Little guy. About a 6-incher got off. I'm glad that got off. I don't want to measure that. We got something chasing it. Oh, we're getting blow-ups. They keep missing though. They might just be tiny. You can't tell. It's deceiving. Oh yeah. This is about the size I expect to catch. If he flops off, I'm not that worried about it, but we're trying to get the whopper plopper on the board here. It ain't big. All right, 12 inches on the nose. Whopper plopper only has 5 minutes remaining. That went fast. All right, that's time's up for the whopper plopper. 1 fish, 12 inches, kind of surprising. Expected more. It's another topwater bait, so not too different from the whopper plopper. This one though will dart back and forth. It's called a walk the dog action. So instead of plopping up the water, it kind of spits on top of the water. So bait number 2, here we go. Spook. Oh my gosh. Oh man, it hit it so hard, far out of the water. The anticipation with a topwater lure like this is just so much fun. Like, it's just quiet and peaceful, and you're just watching your lure make a little bit of noise on the surface. Then that calm can just turn into a storm in a second. Just, get him. Got a little guy. He ate it like a big one. That's a little tricky. All right. I think this is gonna be less than 12. All right. Not exactly a Christian McCaffrey sized fish. 14 minutes left with the spook. We got a 10.5 incher. They seem like they're in a good mood, active mood. I think the water might just be a little bit murky for topwater. I don't know, it should be clear enough. But I think the next bait we're gonna tie on will be my pick for the guess of the biggest fish. Well, I was really excited for the spook, but a 10.5 incher is all we have to show for it. 30 minutes goes really quickly. I think you just forget how much time goes by out here on the river. It just flies by.
The rules are simple. I'm gonna fish each of these lures for 30 minutes, and at the end of the day, whichever lure catches the biggest fish is gonna determine our fantasy draft order. So the biggest fish will get first overall in the fantasy draft, and smallest fish will have the last pick in this year's fantasy football draft with my buddies. My buddies know nothing about fishing, I don't think, and I had each of them pick a lure from this picture, and so I don't know what they picked. So I'm out here fishing. I'm gonna try and catch the biggest fish I can on every lure. I have no idea what they picked, so hopefully it should be fun for all of us. Spinnerbait has become probably my most productive lure on the river.
for quality size fish. You can work it kind of in the middle of the water column, either fast or slow. This time of year, you kind of want to work it fast. There's a big fish right there. I think it's big, right on cue. Underneath these trees in the deep water. It's not big. Expect to get a lot bigger ones than this, the spinner bait. But that's on the board with the spinner. 11.5 incher on the spinner bait, 25 minutes remaining. Oh yeah. Oh, yep. Spinnerbait, baby. Came out of that tree, knocked slack in my line. Oh yeah. Spinnerbait. 15 minutes left on the spinnerbait, and we got a 14.25. All right, that is it for the spinnerbait. I really thought the spinnerbait would catch a big one. As of right now, it's in the lead with 2 fish, but the biggest was for the spinnerbait was 14.25. It's going to take more than that to win this, I think.
All right, little scoreboard update here. A bit underwhelmed by 2 of the 4 starters here with the spinnerbait and the whopper plopper. I don't think 14 inches and 12 inches is probably going to hold up for a day of fishing on the river in the summer. And the spook really wasn't getting too much going. I like the spook preferably in the fall, and that's kind of why it's a bench player to begin with. The spinnerbait and whopper plopper are 2 of my go-tos. So weather looks pretty nice. I'm a little worried that we might have a pop-up storm here shortly. We have 2 more bench players coming up, which I'm interested to see how they do in these conditions. And then we have another starter, which is really my favorite lure on the river in the summer. So we'll see what kind of damage that can do. Stay tuned.
All right, bait number 4 is the finesse jig. So finesse jigs, I normally don't throw them until the bite's a little tougher, which I guess maybe with only 14 inch on the board is a little tougher, but finesse jig is quite a bit different presentation from the first 3 baits. This one is really, you want to work it slow and kind of hop it off the bottom. It's imitating a crawfish scurrying across the bottom. All right, finesse jig. It's a smallie, finally on the board. Guess we got to get him in first. But again, another baby. Normally wouldn't even try and get this thing in the boat, but we're keeping score. All right, about 15 minutes left remaining. Got an 11.5 incher on the finesse jig. Bait number 5, crankbait, starts now. 30 minutes. Oh, I just saw one eat it and I jerked it out of its mouth. Just paused at the boat and a rock bass came up and ate it. They must just follow it. There he is. That's a tiny, tiny fish. 9 incher on the crankbait, 15 minutes remaining, and the rain happens. I don't know, we might lose camera. I'm gonna try and keep it rolling. It might die on us. Okay. See? That might go bigger than 8 or whatever the last one was. 11 minutes left on the crankbait, 11 incher. Oh, what happened to you, dude? Gross. Looks like he's from DC. Look at that thing. Hawk, ugh. Up here in the current. Nope. Definitely not a good one. Maybe the biggest one for the crankbait, though. 10 3/4, not going to help the crankbait. 30 minutes on the fluke starts now. Fluke typically catches a lot of fish, and you can trick the big ones too. requires standing and watching them. They'll sit and hover under it. It's a bait that just kind of floats in the water column and you twitch it, darts back and forth. With the big ones though, a lot of times they'll sit underneath it watching it. And you need to see so you can see how to react. If you twitch it too much, they'll run away. That's a big one. That's a big one. That's a big one. I hope that's not a big one. Biggest one of the day probably. He ate it good, but it's not a big one. All right, 11.5 incher on the fluke. 8 minutes remaining. Holy shit. An entire tree branch that I just floated under just came crashing down to the water. That's scary. Definitely would have been enough to knock me out. Ooh. Nope. Good amount of shit. Come on, dude. That's a big one. Oh, we're gonna lose him, I think. Oh. Okay. Oh, there's so much. Oh, it's a good one. This is chaos. This is kayak fishing. Where is this fish? Get in the net. I think we're probably gonna have a new leader. 15 1/4 on the fluke. It's a pretty fish.
Okay, as expected, we have a new leader. It's hard to beat the fluke in these clear water summer conditions. Something that's interesting here is that the bite's not on fire, but the starters are definitely all three above the bench players. So we'll see how this plays out. I'm really excited for a few baits we have coming up here. We're about to run off a few sleepers.
All right, we are on bait number 7, mag draft. If there's ever a bait to catch a giant, this one. It's the biggest bait of the bunch, 7 inches long. That's a big lure for a smallmouth, but it puts big fish in the boat. It's also the lure that's most likely to skunk and not catch anything. Come with me, over here.
Hoping to learn something from this, throwing baits that I normally wouldn't. It's kind of weird because normally you're putting together a pattern out here on the river, and being forced to switch baits every 30 minutes is really challenging, but it's a lot of fun.
Definitely smallmouth and all this crap. It's too perfect, but they don't want the mag draft. Mag draft skunked. Whoever drafted the mag draft, you suck. All right, we're just about ready to start lure number 8, the goat toad, and we're about to get dunked on. I'm throwing this on the wrong rod, too. We got one. The goat toad might have produced the biggest fish of the day, honestly. We'll see. They're crushing it. I was wrong. Okay. Keep them on here. Not a big one, but for today, on the better side of things, the goat toad. What a sleeper. All right. 22 minutes left on the goat toad, and that's a 13 3/4 sleeper. And the way they're eating it, we might get a big one. Let's try and keep going. Okay, well, this is actually a floating topwater, or floating trace. So I had the fast sink and the floating, and I wanted the slow sink. So we're gonna stick with the floating. Topwater was working, should be fun. Got one. Oh, he got off, he was tiny.
God. Yeah. Yep. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, that was cool. God, he smoked it. God, if I would have missed that fish, I would have thought it was a 20-incher. Friggin' smoked it. He's only got one hook in the corner of his mouth. $13.25 for the topwater trace. Figuring out how to fish it. You have to put your rod tip down in the water and just burn it as fast as you can. All right, whoever chose the poop bait, you got a good sense of humor. I've actually never thrown this before. It's kind of just like a heavy little turd, and you just cast it and it slowly sinks, and then you pop it up off the bottom and it slowly sinks, and I'd probably eat it on the fall. Oh yeah. Oh my God, my drag. Oh, he's still there. Oh my God, he ate it forever. My drag is slipping. This bait's blowing my mind. Oh yeah, that's big. Oh my God, I never saw him. How did he not get the hook? I set the hook crap out of the hook on him. Oh my God, that was a big fish, dude. I was doubled over. Man, started to get the hook on. Oh, I got that one though. Poop bait, poop bait. Get in the net, bro. Get in the net, bro. Oh yeah. Let's get it, poopy. I mean, where's the poop? Where's the poop? This guy eats poop. Poop bait with the biggest one of the day. 17-incher.
All right, so this lure is pretty freaking cool. This is exactly what I wanted to happen in this challenge, is to find a lure that I probably would never throw in a situation I probably wouldn't throw it, and see if there's a place for it in the rotation. This thing falls like a like a Senko, so you get that suspending action, which is why I like the fluke in the summer in the clear water. But I was working it off the bottom like a jig, so it sinks relatively fast, and kind of working it like a jig. So you kind of get the best of both worlds on the fall, and working on the bottom. So that puts the poop bait in the lead. Pretty impressed with a few of the sleepers we just threw here. A lot of fun, and definitely learned something, and gonna try and mix them in. Still need to figure out what makes the most sense in the right situations for these. We got a couple more bottom baits coming up here, which with how the pattern's working out right now with that poop bait working on the bottom, I kind of think these bottom baits might do pretty well.
All right, the GoPro died. I am 5 minutes into the stupid tube and caught a 13-incher, so I'll just have to update when I catch them. Stupid tube and Ned rig left. 12 even on the stupid tube. All right, last bait. I've been on the river way too long. Last bait's a Ned rig. So I just found this laying in my kayak. Must have been spit up from a fish, but I mean, look at that. It's like the same thing. All right, 23 minutes left. Caught a 12.25 Ned rig fish. All right. Last minute out here. 10 minutes left on the Ned rig. Got a 15.25. Pretty good one for the day.
All right, the poop bait took home the victory, as you can see. And we'll get to the fishing in here in just a second, but I still don't know what draft pick I got. My fantasy league picked all the baits for me, and I got what's left. So let's go check in with them and see what pick I got.
Holy shit.
Poop bait with the biggest one of the day.
Wow.
17 inches.
17.
You can't make this up. They left me with the poop bait, and then I ended up getting first pick. Now, when I went fishing, I had no idea what anybody had, so it's hilarious. Obviously, they thought I cheated it somehow, but I didn't find out until that moment live streaming what lure everybody had. So as soon as they showed the list on the call, I just had to keep it in until we got to the poop bait. Oh man, that was priceless. All right, so who cares that I got first pick in my fantasy draft by fishing with the poop bait? I think the big takeaway here is don't be afraid to try something new, mix things up, and see what you can learn. I was really surprised, forcing myself to switch presentations and not put together a pattern. The decision making was completely out of my hands. I just switched baits every 30 minutes. And what that taught me, a lot of what it taught me is your instincts can be correct. Like those bench players that I don't normally throw that time of year, I throw in different seasons, they didn't perform. And it also taught me that some new baits are really cool, and sometimes the best thing to be doing isn't what you're always doing, and sometimes it is. And I think that's what makes fishing so fun, is piecing together that puzzle, and that puzzle's not the same one every time you go fishing, even if all conditions and things align that it should be.
MVP, most valuable poop. Christian McTurd.